can impart that passion in many and manifold ways. He's had some very interesting ideas about teaching technique.
I will never marry Philip, for I am already married to England!
I can tell you a lot about David Perkins. David is a very interesting character.
I think we appreciated that there was a teacher who was prepared to make a bit of a joke about it and not take himself so seriously, that he was prepared to do that kind of thing.
This got started as somewhat of an accident, really. I taught this particular lesson a few times and I thought, well, how can I make a difference? And it just so happened a friend of mine came around that night and said, I've got a new app on my phone, it's a movie maker app.
My name's Harold Godwinson, and I think I should be the King of England.
I thought, well, what's the best way I can do this? I knew I had YouTube, I said, I'll upload it to YouTube and then I'll just be able to access it. So came in the next day, and then the next thing it all went a bit crazy, and there was a massive response to it, and even ended up on an Australian breakfast television programme.
Roll up, get your relics here.
One of the things that makes an inspirational teacher, and it's a bit old-fashioned to say that now, is they really, really love their subjects. When you look at Josh and David and that relationship, you have to look at history.
It sounds a little bit corny, I suppose, but there are times, tangibly times, when the hair on the back of your neck sticks up when you think, yes, you've got it. And when you read a piece of work and you're like, that's exactly what I wanted you to achieve.
You'll do something and amaze you, David, all of a sudden. You'll think, where did that come from?
I'm not sure how many students of his have got an A star. I imagine, thanks to him, I imagine many will.
I thought Oxford was like a mystical place where the predestined children were meant to go. But my teacher said it doesn't matter, you know, what your parents do. It's all about what you can offer them.
She is a joy to be with. She is inspirational.
She introduced me to some texts which really fascinated me and gave me a foresight of what the degree here would be like.
Asked him to read 2 short stories, and he ended up doing his speaking test on naturalism because he just loved it. Exactly. His life was languages. We had to encourage him.
It doesn't matter whether you're a low achiever or a high achiever. And tries to get the best out of them that they can.
He was a tearaway in his youth. He suddenly realised, you know, enough's enough. And he's where he is now.
I was very, very excited to have an interview, and I immediately went to see Miss V about it, and we had a little jump up and down. In interview, having these questions and ideas thrown at me, I remembered all that time that I had spent already having these sorts of discussions with her and with the class, and felt a lot better about it than I think I would have if I hadn't had her as a teacher.
English is the kind of subject, probably the only subject, where you can really engage with students on an emotional level. It gives them the opportunity to reflect on their own lives. Sometimes a text can help them work through something in their own life as well.
There are so many assessment hoops for students to jump through, but the best teachers are able to marry that with a sense of exploration, investigation, to feel that they can take their subject beyond the lifespan of that exam and into their futures.
When students leave, I tend to give them a poem, and sometimes I write one, and sometimes I give them a poem such as Robert Frost's poem about 2 roads diverging in a wood and choosing one or the other, and the one I chose made all the difference. And I definitely think that if you can, as a teacher, point to literature that has had a profound effect on your own life, or that has spoken to you in a particular situation or has inspired you at a particular moment, then it can definitely have that effect on them as well.
I said to my mum and dad, I was like, I need to do biochemistry at Oxford, and they were just like, what's biochemistry? I think if he didn't push me, I probably wouldn't have applied.
And Zoe at one stage did turn up, I think, before 7 o'clock one time, and we were talking about giving her actual key.
So we had mock interviews and things, which were actually worse than the ones that I had here. And he helped me redraft my personal statement a good 20 times or something.
To see her when she got her results and when she knew that she'd got in, and to see her mum as well, to see her mum, to see her dad, and through all of the stresses and the strains that we went through at different times of her career was just absolutely amazing. There's a lot of bad press talked about sort of teachers, or teachers talk bad about things, but if you can enthuse people to do what they, you know, maybe to go on to become a doctor, to find the cure for cancer, it just makes everything fantastic. It really does.
I mean, I left the sixth form with lever arch files full of paper.
I have got cupboardfuls of worksheets over there, as you can see, and they are overflowing, and the students keep telling me to tidy them up, but I know where they are. It's a beautiful place to live, but we're very remote here, and so a lot of our students, their parents perhaps haven't got degrees, and so they need encouraging to go to university and to aim high.
She gets an awful lot about her students, and so she cried when I told her I got in.
Whenever they get their C's or their A's or their A stars, I just cry. So, you know, it was par for the course. But it's doing for your students what you would want a teacher to do for your own child. I think that's the main thing.
I mean, she's done so much for me, and I know she could help so many other people. And I wanted to say thank you, and just saying thank you didn't seem like enough.
So he was always like, never mess with Mr. Curry, and then I had him as a teacher and it was just the complete opposite.
I'm pretty opinionated, and I'm quite happy to let that opinion be known, as long as they know it's an opinion.
He's somebody who always looks very serious, but he's somebody deep down who cares massively for the children. Somebody who goes out of his way to bit by bit just drip feed into the children that they can, and there's people here to support them.
Like, one of my best friends is resitting, and he's never given up on her. Even when she's wanted to give up because she's upset or anything like that, he never lets her give up and just says, like, I believe in you.
Not everybody's like Louise, so but that's what we do. You get on the phone, you write home, you make interventions, and you do what you need to do the right thing by them. I suppose we'd call it tough love.
He criticised my application for grammatical errors.
I think she's gone way overboard in terms of how much influence I've had over her. But no, I wasn't annoyed. No, she can rest easy.
She started telling an anecdote that started with, when you all go to university. I mean, she obviously hadn't thought about it, but for me it was like, sort of when?
I went to a comprehensive school, and it was absolutely my school that suggested that I might go to university, and suggested that it might be Cambridge. When I went to university, I got a bit of a shock, realised that there weren't many people from similar backgrounds to me, which sounds obvious now, but it was a surprise then. And I had to do quite a lot of learning about, well, you know, why does it matter which school you go to, and, you know, why are there so many people at this university who've come from this very particular background? So it just made me think about the way that society was organised. Holly told me that her plan was that she was going to get a scholarship to a top public school. She was going to go to Oxford to do PPE, and that then she was going to become Prime Minister. So she's done 2 of those things. So I'm hoping that she'll do the 3rd as well.
I think when I went to Westminster, it was obviously has like a reputation as a much better school, but I sound really full of myself. But when I was at Hornsey, I always had a real sense that I was special, and that other people knew that I was special. And I think being there and having that has given me way more confidence than going to a good school ever would have.
Holly is going to be Prime Minister, and I think there's something sort of political about this, that, you know, she is making a point about, for her, the value of a comprehensive education.
And will you vote for her?
Yes, probably, yes.
I came out of my history class, which was my last lesson before the weekend, so it was my last lesson before the interview. She was just sitting outside my class, and I was like, oh, hi, what are you doing here? And she was like, oh, she'd been on a free period, so she was like, oh, I just really wanted to get here early. I really wanted to catch you before you went, just because I've got some extra things to say. And she just had like a little piece of paper, and she'd written all these extra pieces of advice, and then like some extra encouragement. And that was the time when I just really realised that she was so willing to go the extra mile, and really, I don't think I could have done it without her, without either of my English teachers. They were always so supportive, so encouraging, always. I knew I wanted to do it, but without them I wouldn't have known I could do it. I think they really made me believe that actually I can.
As teachers, we're assessed a lot and we get a lot of feedback, but I'd never obviously had feedback like that.
Quite easy just to see the teacher as just someone who's paid to do it, and you don't really realise often that they're doing a lot more than they're paid for. They're not just, as I said before, they're not just getting you through the exam, they're not just ticking boxes, they're actually so key to your development and maturity, and they're actually helping you as people, so they're not just what their job description says.
All the staff and students at the school love him.
We're teaching boys for 50 years' time. What is the world going to be in 50 years' time? I mean, it's changed an incredible amount in my life.
Instead of teaching from the textbook, like all that's really required, he really tried to get us to really think and understand what was going on behind the maths.
It's allowing them, if they wish, to go down paths that are mathematical paths instead of tangents. Oh no, sorry, that's a mathematical term. And I like to check up on them when they first started at university.
Just asked me about what life was like at university, also what the maths was like.
He's born and brought up in Enfield and came here as a young boy and returned after university.
So the deputy head then, he said, why don't you come back and teach in the school for a year while you work out what you want to do? And I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. How's that? Just astonishing, the whole experience of it. It's really difficult to leave. I don't know whether it's important to leave a legacy. The legacy is, if you like, amongst all the students who I've met and have come across. But they need to realise that they've left a legacy with me, see, because I don't forget them.
I don't know exactly how old she is. She's in her 20s, but she acts like an 18, 19-year-old when she's around us. Like, it's just, if there was like a checklist of what you'd want in a teacher, she would tick all of them.
One of the hardest jobs in the world, probably, but it's also the best job in the world, because, you know, you meet so many young people and you form great relationships and bonds with them, and that's something that you wouldn't do otherwise.
Even if it wasn't about work, it didn't have to be about biology, it didn't have to be about school, anything, just ask her. And she had an answer for it.
Nimi has won the award for the enormous amount of work that she's put in, but I hope it's really recognition of the work of all the staff at Oaks Park High School.
With Miss Sidhu, there was actually someone else in Oaks Park that I was very close to as well, and he helped, his name was Mr. Foster, and he helped me every step of the way as well. But towards the end of the summer, and he passed away the day before results day, and so he didn't get a chance to,
Esther didn't actually find out that she got into Oxford on results day. She didn't get the results that she expected to get, and I remember Esther saying to me, I've let Mr. Foster down. And it was, and I remember, oh, I feel a bit emotional. I remember her saying that, and I remember saying to her, you haven't let Mr. Foster down, and you haven't let anyone down, and we're all so proud of you. I remember looking in her face, and I remember that being the only time of slight weakness in her. And then as soon as she'd had her moment, and we'd both had a little moment together, she went, okay, right. And I said to her, we're going to get remarks, let's go.
Like, yeah, it wasn't a good day until Miss Sidhu came and flipped it around for me, so yeah, that's why I love her.
I am really proud of the fact that she got into Oxford, but I'm really proud of who she is, and you know, who she's become and the young lady that she's becoming.
Thanks so much for everything, because honestly, without their time, their care, their nurturing is the word as well, without all of that, I honestly would not be here.
Craig would have been so pleased and so proud. And he probably would have made a joke, probably of some kind. But what I know, one thing he definitely would have said was, Esther, I'm so proud of you, because this is what she wanted, and she's living the dream that we talked about and that we hoped that she was going to do for so long. He would have been so proud of that.
Empathy and real care for her students to make sure that everyone achieved what they could, and I'd say that everyone pretty much did.
We both had a common interest in football, so we got on really well from the beginning.
She's an Arsenal supporter, so I keep in touch with football stuff. Being a Burnley fan, that doesn't go too well.
We have beaten them, and they're probably going to be relegated. Sorry, Ben.
On my notice board in my room is a sticky note which says PMA on it, which means positive mental attitude, which is just the one message that she always delivered in every single assembly at the end.
If you have a positive mental attitude, or my other motto is be the best you can be, you will achieve.
If I was going into a football match, I wouldn't go with the mentality of I'm going to lose here.
I grew up in India, where education is so important, especially for children who are sort of, you know, they see it as their way out in terms of poverty.
My father was a miner. I was first generation university in my family, and we still have students who are first generation university in their families. So once we lower the expectations for them, then there may be nobody else that sets the bar high enough for them again.
Keep doing what you're doing. Make sure that everyone gets the best that they possibly can. You've done it for so many people before, and you can keep on doing it. So do.
Our school never had any history of people getting into Oxford, and so it was kind of a, why would it be me?
It's been a big push of mine to try and get our children to aspire to not only to a university education, but also to go outside Cardiff and potentially outside Wales.
She went on loads of conferences to find out exactly what they were looking for, because Oxford always seems different to all the other universities. So what is it that they look for exactly? Why is it different? So she went and found out all this information, gave it back to us to give us a more informed idea. I don't think there's anything that she wanted to achieve that she didn't achieve. She was just that determined. 2 days before I arrived at Oxford for the interview, I had letters and cards and good luck, do us proud. Everyone knew about it, so it was quite a big deal for me. I had a lot of pressure on. When she was there to sort of, you know, it's not the end. It's not the end of the world if you didn't get in.
And it was just that kind of vindication, you know, he'd got the offer, and there's not a more deserving student, so it was that, thank goodness, you know, because I'm not sure what we would have done if it didn't happen. I think I'd have resigned. I saw some very young children, and some of them, I think one of them may have even had some sort of special educational needs, you know, but he was pointing at his picture, I want to be like him, like Eggy. And that's it, job done really. You know, you've got children in year 7 and 8 with, you know, that aren't going to find education easy. It's going to be a bit of an uphill struggle for them, but they want to be like him, and that's perfect.
I just think every school needs a Mrs. Kemp. That's basically the moral of the story.
It is a lot of time, a lot of effort, but you're dealing with fantastic students, so, you know, if you're in this kind of role, there's nothing better.
One dinner I said to Helen, are you going to sack me? She said, no, not yet.
And then it came, bing.
I want to talk to you about the letter. What letter? Sit down, and she gave me the letter and a box of tissues.
My phone was not working. I had to put it on loudspeaker to make it work.
I remember he sort of skipped into my office and put it on the desk, really.
She stood up randomly, and all my friends are looking at me like, what are you doing? And I just saw, I am pleased.
So everyone in the room heard the call, and
like a massive cheer from the background, and the tutor was just like, oh, someone's happy.
I started screaming, ran out of the room. Everyone around me was just like, what's this guy doing? My instinct was genuinely that I wasn't even thinking at that point, go tell Mrs. Kemp. Turns out that someone had phoned her, told her that I'd found out that I'd got an interview. Told her to go to where I was.
So I ran.
So we were just running around in circles looking for each other.
Yeah, it's something from Benny Hill, I think.
I just couldn't believe the letter. I might have thought it was a scam.
Did everything I've taught kids not to do. I jumped around, I didn't read it properly, I just couldn't. And it was 24 hours before I actually thought, I have to look at this letter properly.
And I'm kind of opening letters, as you do, you know, you're multitasking. And I was speaking to one of my students, and he was, you know, are you all right, miss? And the students got really concerned, because I'm not one to get overtly emotional, but I did that day.
Literally for an hour, I couldn't stop sobbing. Ended up running the rest of the way home, and then opened the letter and screamed.
Yeah, I was shaking.
I don't think he knew where to walk.
Because I knew, for the past week, I'd been sat by the door and I was like, right, so the post comes at 9:30 in the morning, I have to be home for 9:30. So I rushed through the maths test, did terribly, so that I could run home and get the offer letter just to find out at 9:30. I was like, oh my gosh, look at this. And he was like, well, I knew you would do it.
Because you was.
And she said, oh, you need to come and see me immediately at break time. And I said no, and I actually began to panic because I thought that I'd done something terribly wrong.
She was really cheeky because I'd actually seen her in school 2 days before when she came to talk to my Year 10 students, and she hadn't mentioned anything about it.
He said, please, whatever you do, he said, I don't mind you sharing it in the press, you know, in the local community. He said, but please don't tell the staff, because he knew he'd get a ribbon off the rest of the staff. So we told the staff. And he got a round of applause off everybody.
We did actually go out that night and have a good time, just to, you know.
Finally, I saw her, and then I told her, it's just like, I'd never forget that moment. And then I phoned my parents up.